There are moments in life when everything around you is screaming. Noise, chaos, urgency. But inside, there is only silence. A strange kind of silence. Deep, almost haunting. It's not the silence of peace, but the silence of something forgotten, something sacred. It's a silence that cannot be ignored, because it echoes not from the world outside, but from the very core of your soul. Have you ever heard it? That whisper, gentle yet fierce, that dares to ask, "What are you doing with your life?" It's not the noise of deadlines, responsibilities, or the opinions of others telling you what you should be, what you should want, what you should strive for. This voice comes from somewhere much older, much wiser. It is the voice of your true self, the self you've silenced for years, maybe decades. We spend our lives chasing after other people's dreams, trying to be accepted, validated, applauded. We shape ourselves to fit molds that were never made for us. We become what others want us to be, slowly drifting further and further away from what we really are. And then one day, without knowing exactly when it happened, you wake up feeling empty. Not in the sense of lacking things, but a deeper emptiness. Outwardly, you may seem fine, full even, but inwardly, something is missing. Carl Jung once said that the greatest problem of modern man is that he has lost connection with his soul. And this disconnection doesn't happen all at once. It's not a sudden event. It's a slow bleeding of the spirit. Drop by drop, day after day. Every time you choose to be liked instead of being honest. Every time you drown yourself in noise to avoid your own silence. Every time you postpone your truth just to keep others comfortable. Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life? As if each day you're just performing in a play you didn't write, speaking lines you didn't choose, like your soul is trapped beneath layers of routines, obligations, polite lies, and carefully crafted masks. And yet, there's something inside you that hasn't died, something that still breathes, even if faintly, something that still dreams, still desires, still longs to remember who you really are. That something is what Jung called the process of individuation, the sacred journey back to yourself. A return to your own center, your inner wholeness. A reunion with the version of you that has been patiently waiting, watching from the shadows, hoping you'd finally come back. You cannot keep spending your life on things that aren't truly yours. You cannot keep avoiding the sacred responsibility of becoming who you were meant to be. You cannot keep silencing that voice inside you, the one begging to awaken. This is not a comforting message. It's not meant to flatter you. It's meant to disturb you, to rattle the fragile structure of your well-behaved ego, to show you that your soul can no longer be held hostage by your fears. Who are you living for? Who are you trying to impress? Why do you fill your days with meaningless tasks, hollow relationships, and empty accomplishments? What are you waiting for to truly look at yourself? Jung wrote that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that transformation starts when you stop running from yourself, when you stop numbing your pain with distractions, when you stop giving away your energy to things that don't nourish your spirit. Because the more you run from yourself, the more you become a stranger in your own existence. And life doesn't wait. It slips away silently, without asking permission. But the good news is, you're still in time. Take a moment to really look at yourself, not with your eyes, but with your soul. Watch every gesture, every automatic thought, every decision made just to fit in. Whose life are you living? Does it really belong to you, or is it just a mask carved from fear, and routine. Jung spoke of the persona, the social mask we wear to survive in the world, that acceptable face we show so we can be liked, appreciated, and recognized. The mask has its place. It serves a function. But if you confuse the mask for your identity, it will slowly consume you. How many times have you said yes when your whole being was screaming no? How many times have you smiled outwardly while something inside you was breaking? How many times have you pretended to be strong when all you wanted was to collapse? And how many more times will you betray yourself just to avoid discomfort? The problem isn't the mask itself. The problem is forgetting that it's a mask. The real danger is letting the character devour the actor, letting the fiction replace the essence. We become so busy trying to please, to fit in, to avoid failure, that we no longer stop to ask, does any of this make sense to me? We become slaves to expectations, to obligations, to shoulds and have-tos. And our life turns into a script written by someone else, lines we didn't write, a story we didn't choose. But the soul never forgets. The soul never settles. And even if you bury it under layers of irony, distraction, or denial, it waits, it watches, it remembers. Can you see the cost of belonging at any price? Every day you pretend, a part of you dies. Every time you abandon yourself, your unconscious fills with bitterness, with rage, with silent grief. That shadow, the repressed, disowned part of you, doesn't go away. It transforms into anxiety, into chronic dissatisfaction, into that gnawing feeling of being lost, even when everything looks perfect on the outside. But what if you took off the mask? What if, for just one day, you dared to be entirely, unapologetically yourself? No filters, no fear, no pretending. Who would you be? What would change? It's not easy. Jung never said it was. The journey inward is filled with shadows, with uncomfortable truths, with wounds you've tried to forget. But it's also filled with freedom, with authenticity, with power. Not the power of dominance or success, but the quiet, unshakable power of living in alignment with your soul. Not that superficial kind of power that controls or manipulates others, but the quiet, grounded power that arises from truly knowing yourself, fully, honestly, and without resistance. That kind of power doesn't need to shout or dominate. It simply is. It radiates from within. Your soul has been waiting. Your shadow is tired of being ignored. And you, yes you, already carry within you everything you need to begin again. But not from scratch, from truth. Are you ready to keep looking inward? Because there is no real transformation without dissent. No genuine awakening without first facing the dark corners of your inner world. The darkness within you is not your enemy. It's not something to be feared, suppressed, or eliminated. It's your shadow, the forgotten part of you, the hidden self. And as long as you continue to turn your back on it, it will continue to operate silently, ruling your choices from the background. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Take a moment to truly absorb those words. How many times have you wondered why you fall into the same patterns? Why you seem to attract the same kinds of people into your life? Why you keep repeating cycles you swore you'd never repeat again? It's not bad luck. It's not coincidence. It's not destiny. It's the unconscious, the parts of yourself you haven't dared to face, pulling the strings behind the curtain. You haven't truly stepped into the labyrinth of your psyche yet. Maybe you've been running from yourself, afraid of what you might find if you look too deeply. But healing doesn't happen at the surface. It begins in the depths, in the spaces you've tried to hide, even from yourself. You cannot transform your life if you don't have the courage to explore what's been buried in the basement of your mind. The shadow isn't evil. It's the sum of everything you've suppressed to survive. Your instincts, your wounds, your unmet desires, your unspoken rage, your grief, your tenderness. The shadow is the exiled version of you. The parts of yourself you never gave permission to exist. And the more you deny it, the stronger it becomes. It seeps into your relationships, your impulsive choices, your self-sabotage, and that deep, unshakable sense of emptiness. It wears the mask of pride, independence, cynicism, perfectionism, but underneath, it's screaming to be seen, to be acknowledged. There is a part of you longing to be embraced, not judged. A part of you that was never truly loved, that was silenced, shamed, abandoned. That part doesn't want revenge. It wants reconciliation. It wants peace. And that's why the journey back to yourself is never a straight path. It's a spiral, a descent, a conscious decision to walk through the darker chambers of your soul. And yes, it can hurt, but it is also liberating, because what you find in your darkest places is not just pain, but truth. In what's been broken, you find your greatest strength. In what's been denied, you find your gold. You cannot fully be yourself if you don't acknowledge your shadow. You cannot create healthy, conscious relationships if you don't take responsibility for your projections. You will not find peace unless you come to terms with your inner war. This path is not for those who wish to stay numb, who cling to illusions, who are satisfied with superficial answers. This path is for the brave, for those who are tired of sleepwalking through life, for those who are ready to feel deeply, to question everything, to face what they've been avoiding. And you're here for a reason. Something within you is already stirring. Something no longer wants to live according to the old story. You're ready. You may not have all the answers, but the very fact that you're still listening means a part of you has already awakened. The shadow is not the end of the path. It's the threshold. It's the doorway to everything real. And only those who dare to walk through it will ever truly understand who they are, why they're here, and what it means to be whole. So stop running. Stop pretending. Turn inward. Look at your shadow. Listen to what it has to say. And when you're ready, when you truly are, embrace it. Because no one can become whole without embracing their own darkness. And in that union, you will finally discover what it means to be free. You look at the world and think you understand it. You point, judge, admire, condemn. Yet rarely do you realize that what you see out there is merely a reflection of what lives within you. The other is your mirror. Every encounter, every conflict, every emotion that flares up in the presence of someone else is a message from your soul. Carl Jung explained it clearly. We project what we haven't yet recognized in ourselves. What we repress, we see in others. What we deny, we end up hating outside. What we long for, we idealize in someone else. Have you ever felt anger for no clear reason? Instantly disliked someone without a logical cause? Felt jealousy, envy, or fascination? It's not them. It's you. It's your unconscious trying to show you what you still haven't accepted. You project your shadow, your light, your fear, your desire, your unresolved pain. That person who criticizes without mercy, could it be they're showing you something you also carry but can't bear to face? That person you admire with devotion, might they be reflecting dormant qualities in you that you're still afraid to awaken? Every encounter is an opportunity to know yourself more deeply. There are no enemies, only teachers in disguise. No coincidences, only living symbols of the soul, seeking to be heard. But projection also traps you. It keeps you from seeing the other for who they really are. You distort them with your wounds, your emptiness. You turn them into a container for your unhealed traumas. That's how toxic bonds are born. Repetition, disappointment. You wait for the other to fill what you haven't filled yourself. But no one can save you from yourself. Only you can take responsibility for your projections. Only you can withdraw them one by one, like someone slowly clearing a mirror clouded by time. And once you do, you'll begin to see clearly, no longer from judgment, but from understanding, no longer from lack, but from wholeness, no longer from dependence, but from true love. Because everything you see, everything you feel, everything you experience in your relationship with the world speaks of you. It's your soul speaking through the other. It's life whispering that the path outward always begins within. So next time someone stirs a deep emotion in you, pause. Don't react. Observe. Ask yourself, what part of me is being revealed in this mirror? And listen, because the soul doesn't shout, it whispers. There was a time when you knew who you were, not with words or labels, but with the silent certainty of someone who had not yet been tamed. When you were a child, you dreamed without fear. You imagined invisible worlds. Trees spoke, stones glowed, time didn't exist. But then, you were taught to forget. They told you dreaming was a waste of time, that imagining was immature, that feeling too much was weakness, that you had to choose between being accepted and being yourself. And without realizing it, you began burying your soul under tons of logic, duties, and expectations. But the soul never forgets, and when it's denied its voice, it starts to speak another language, the language of dreams. Jung saw dreams as the direct voice of the unconscious. They're not just meaningless images, they're symbols, encrypted messages from the soul, fragments of truth trying to rise to the surface while you sleep. And if you learn to listen, they can lead you back to yourself. Have you dreamed of falling, of being naked in front of others, of animals, of fire? Each symbol has meaning, not universal, but deeply personal. It's your soul speaking in its own language, and if you learn how to decipher it, you'll be able to understand what your conscious mind has forgotten. To dream is not to escape. It is to remember who you were before the wounds, before the fear, before you started adapting. It's about reconnecting with the archetypes that dwell within you. The inner child, the wise one, the hero, the orphan, the destroyer, the lover. They all live in your unconscious, waiting to be awakened. You don't need to reach the top of the world to find yourself. You only need to close your eyes and dare to look within. Because the real journey doesn't take you outward. It takes you into the depths of your soul. But of course, this world doesn't celebrate introspection. It celebrates productivity, appearance, speed. Who has time to dream? Who pauses to listen to what their soul is trying to whisper while they sleep? Only someone who is truly alive. Only someone who is tired of living disconnected. Only someone who understands that peace isn't about having more. It's about remembering more. Don't ignore your dreams. They are lighthouses in the dark. They are your soul, whispering to you, I'm still here. You haven't lost me. And when you listen to them, when you give them space, something within you slowly begins to heal, deeply, silently. Because dreaming is not a distraction. It is a return. Most people live on the edges of themselves, running in circles, chasing goals that were never theirs, clinging to hollow images of success, of love, of happiness. But there is a quiet, insistent voice that repeats from deep within, "Come back to center. Come back to yourself." That calling is the beginning of the journey of individuation, the core of Carl Jung's work. It's not self-help or a modern technique. It's an ancient, sacred, inevitable process. It's the alchemy of the soul. It's the path to wholeness. To individuate is not to become perfect. It is not to become an ideal version of yourself. It's something far more real, more human. It is to recognize your fragmentation and still move toward integration. It is to stop hiding the broken parts and start listening to them. For Jung, to be an individual didn't mean to be selfish. It meant to be indivisible, to be whole, to be one amid the chaos of the world. But to do that, you must walk through fire. You must face your shadow, become aware of your projections, and reconcile your polarities, masculine and feminine, reason and emotion, light and darkness. And that hurts, because it means dying in a symbolic way. It means letting go of the identities you've protected your whole life. It means giving up the safety you found in your masks, your routines, your certainties. Individuation is a death and a rebirth. It's no longer living to please. It's living with purpose. It's no longer obeying without thought. It's listening to your soul. It's leaving behind the external noise to reach the deep silence that reveals who you truly are. But be warned, there is no map for this journey, no formulas, no shortcuts. Every soul has its own path. What works for one may destroy another. That's why the greatest act of respect is to stop imitating and begin exploring your own way. Individuation is not a destination. It is a lifelong process, a dance between the conscious self and the unconscious, between what you know and what you don't yet understand about yourself. And with each step, each fall, each revelation, you come closer to that silent core from which everything makes sense. Not everyone dares. Many prefer the comfort of ignorance, the anesthesia of the known. But you are here, and that means something. Something inside you has already begun this journey. It has already crossed the threshold. It has already said yes to the unknown. And even when you feel lost, there is an inner compass that never fails. Your soul. It remembers. It knows. It leads. Just trust it. Trust your pain, your confusion, your searching. It's all part of the process. Everything has meaning, even if you can't see it yet. Because the soul is never lost, only forgotten. Ready to keep exploring? We live immersed in constant noise. Not only the external kind, but the one we carry inside. Thoughts that won't stop, demands that pile up, other people's voices echoing endlessly, voices you never asked to hear. Amid all that chaos, the soul pulls back. It shrinks, it hides. And yet deep within you, there is a place untouched, a sanctuary where time stands still, where there is no guilt or fear, where you are not required to be anything. You are simply allowed to be. Just be. That place is called silence. Carl Jung understood the power of silence as a gateway to the unconscious, because only when the noise fades do the soul's images begin to rise. It's not about forcing silence as a technique, but about receiving it as revelation. When was the last time you stopped just to do nothing? Not checking your phone, not planning ahead, not replaying the past. Just being with yourself, just breathing, just feeling. That's where the real journey begins. Silence uncovers what noise conceals. It confronts you with yourself, strips you bare, makes you uncomfortable, but it also shows you the essence. It reminds you that you don't need more, only less. Fewer distractions, fewer pretenses, fewer demands imposed by a world that has forgotten how to inhabit itself. And yet, we avoid silence as if it were a threat. We fill it with noise, with hollow conversations, with soulless content. Why? Because silence forces you to see what you've been avoiding: your emptiness, your wounds, your unconscious choices, your unlived truth. But if you dare to stay in that stillness, something magical happens. A new kind of calm emerges, an internal order, not tied to external chaos, a clarity that doesn't rely on words. And in that space, you hear the forgotten voice of your soul. That's when you return to your center and realize the answer you were chasing outside was always within. You don't have to run anymore. You don't have to prove anything. You can simply be. The modern world fears silence because silence reveals. And whoever dares to reveal themselves can no longer be manipulated. They no longer settle. They no longer sell out for comfort or validation. Those who have dwelled in silence have already begun to awaken. And you can sit with yourself without escaping. You can rest in the core of your being and not fear what surfaces. You can embrace the void until you realize it's full. Silence isn't absence, it's absolute presence. We all run from pain. We avoid it, deny it, disguise it. We live numbed out, believing happiness means not feeling what hurts. But what if pain isn't the enemy? What if instead of destroying us, it came to guide us? Jung knew this. The process of transformation is painful because it demands loss. Loss of illusions, loss of false identities, loss of comfort zones built on lies. But in every loss, there is a seed, a crack through which light can enter. Pain is the great initiator. It's the force that stops you in your tracks and makes you look with brutal honesty. It breaks down the ego's walls so the soul has room to rise. Because only when you shatter can you begin to rebuild yourself for real. Have you noticed how the darkest moments are also the most revealing? When everything you thought was secure falls apart. When someone leaves you. When you fail. When the world feels foreign. That's when something deeper awakens. A voice you never heard before. A strength you didn't know you had. Pain, when met with awareness, doesn't imprison. It liberates. But it's not automatic. You can stay trapped in your wound. You can become a victim of your own story, repeating it endlessly as an excuse not to grow. Or you can choose something braver. Face it, feel it, then release it. The wound doesn't vanish. It transforms. It stops being a prison and becomes a portal, a doorway into your most real, wise, and integrated self. Many want transformation without walking through the fire. But the soul is not shaped in comfort. The soul awakens when everything else fails, when you fall and decide to rise, not out of pride, but out of self-love, out of reverence for who you are. Suffering isn't a guarantee of growth, but conscious suffering is alchemy. So don't run from your pain anymore. Listen to it. Love it. Ask it. What are you here to teach me? And when you stop seeing it as punishment and begin to see it as guidance, something in you will be reborn. Something essential. Something no external success can give you. Because there is no power more real than the one found in someone who walked through hell and returned with their soul intact. Do you want to keep walking? Not everything that's lost is gone forever. Sometimes what seems to have vanished is merely waiting to be remembered. The soul is like that. It doesn't leave, it doesn't die, it doesn't disappear. It folds inward, patiently waiting for you to call it back. Jung knew this. He understood that all inner work, all descent into the shadow, all integration of the unconscious had a single purpose: to bring back the exiled soul, that essential part of yourself that you abandoned when you began to adapt, to please, to hide your truth. The soul is not an abstract idea. It's your life force, your authentic voice, your sacred compass. When you're connected to it, everything makes sense, even the pain. When you're disconnected, everything becomes noise, emptiness, confusion. And yet, we've normalized living without a soul. We walk like mechanical bodies, soulless routines, soulless relationships, soulless jobs. We've become efficient but absent, productive but disconnected, informed but hollow. Returning to the soul is not a poetic gesture. It's a vital necessity. It takes courage because it means stripping away layers, inherited beliefs, achievements that only decorate a false self. It requires surrender, not as defeat, but as radical honesty. Admitting that you don't know, that you've been asleep, that you need to find yourself again. Where did you leave your soul? When did you start betraying yourself? How many times did you say yes when something inside you screamed no? How much longer will you live split in half? The return of the soul begins with small acts, speaking the truth when you'd rather stay silent, stopping when everything in you wants to run, crying when your mask wants to keep smiling, staying alone when the noise outside tries to pull you away. These are portals. Each one gives you back a fragment of yourself, and little by little, what was forgotten returns. The light in your eyes, the sensitivity, the intuition, the creativity, the desire to live with meaning. Not for others, for you, through you, within you. It won't be easy. Sometimes you'll feel like you're falling back. Sometimes you'll doubt everything. But if you learn to hold yourself from within, you'll discover something no one can take away: your truth. And from that place, from that truth, everything changes. You no longer need to convince anyone. You no longer need to impress. You only need to be. Inhabit yourself. Honor yourself. Breathe deeply where your soul has been reclaimed. Because only those who return to themselves can truly live. We've reached the end, but it's not a closure. It's an opening, a threshold. Because what really ends here is the lie that you're alone, the lie that you're not enough, the lie that you can't change, the lie that your life doesn't matter. This journey wasn't towards something external. It was a descent into yourself, through pain, shadow, mirrors, silence, and inner fire. You've walked through territories most people avoid. You've heard truths others are too afraid to speak. And if you've come this far, it's because something inside you has already awakened. Carl Jung never gave quick solutions. He offered us maps, symbols, and questions. Because the soul doesn't respond to formulas, but to real, embodied, living encounters. And now, you've met yourself. You don't need to do it perfectly. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to be willing. Willing not to betray yourself again. Willing to stay with yourself even in the storm. Willing to keep searching even when the path isn't clear. Because the soul doesn't demand success. It demands truth. And the truth is, you are so much more than what they told you. You are so much more than you think. Within you is an untouched core, a center from which you can begin again and again. Not from lack, but from awareness. Today, you can choose. You can choose to stop living from who you should be and start living from who you truly are. You have the power to quiet the noise and return to the silence. You have the courage to look your shadows in the eye and no longer fear them. You can stop running. You can come back to yourself. Maybe no one will notice at first. Maybe the world outside won't change, but you will. And that changes everything. Because when one person transforms, they also transform how they see. And when the way we see the world changes, the world itself begins to shift. So if today you feel that subtle tremor in your chest, that flicker of something you can't quite explain, that echo that hums without words, don't ignore it. That's your soul. It's coming back, and with it, the true beginning of your life. Live from that place. Breathe from there. Walk from there. Because this life, this one brief, unrepeatable life that you've been given, is not meant to be wasted anymore. It is now meant to be lived from the soul, from the depth of who you truly are. And that is sacred. If something in this message stirred something within you, if it made you pause or breathe deeper or feel a little more seen, then keep walking this path with me. There's more to uncover. There's more to remember. And if your heart is ready, say it out loud or write it in the silence. I am ready to be reborn. Most people live more aware of other people's lives than their own. They chase after what their friends are doing, compare themselves to what others post on social media, and envy someone else's success. But when I ask them, what are you really focused on? They don't know how to answer. Everywhere I go, the conclusion is the same. Millions have forgotten that the greatest project of their life is themselves. Not their boss, not their partner, not their neighbors. You are your project. You are your investment. You are your priority. Understand this once and for all. No one is coming to save you. No one will build your discipline. No one will raise your self-esteem. No one will bring order into your life. That's your responsibility. And here's the good news. The moment you decide to focus on yourself, when you take the first step, the entire universe begins to open doors that once seemed forever closed. I want to speak to you directly, as I would in a private Jungian session. If you can't place yourself at the center of your own life, you'll always live off the crumbs of others. You'll live as a spectator instead of the main character. And I know you weren't born to be a spectator. Take a moment and tell me, what's the first thing you're going to change today to focus more on yourself? And before we continue, subscribe and share this message, because what's coming next could mark a before and after in your life. Think for a moment, how many times have you placed everyone ahead of you? Your family, your partner, your friends, your co-workers, always saying yes, even when you're exhausted inside, even when you know it's pulling you away from your dreams. That misunderstood sacrifice has a cost, and that cost is your own life. I've seen successful entrepreneurs lose their health because they never invested in themselves. I've seen mothers and fathers so drained they forgot how to dream. I've seen young people spend 10 years trying to fit into a group, only to realize they haven't taken a single step on their own path. The truth is hard. If you don't invest in yourself, the world won't invest in you. Respect, success, and opportunity come when you project strength, clarity, and direction. But if your energy is always scattered trying to please everyone, you'll end up empty. Think of it as a bank account. Every time you focus on yourself, you make a deposit into your future. Every time you neglect yourself, you make a withdrawal. And if your balance hits zero, it doesn't matter how much you try to give. There will simply be nothing left. Today's decision is clear. Start putting yourself first. Not out of ego, but out of responsibility. Because when you're strong, disciplined, and focused, you give the best of yourself to those you love. Imagine your life as a river. The water flows with power, but without direction. It disperses. It's lost. It turns into stagnant swamps. That's your energy, your thoughts, your time, your discipline. If you don't channel them toward yourself, toward your growth, your goals, they'll end up feeding other people's dreams while yours dries out. I've worked with thousands of people, and I always ask, where do you invest most of your energy each day? Most answer, work, social media, family problems, what others think of me. Very few say, in my growth, my discipline, my personal goals. And that's the difference between those who move forward and those who remain trapped in mediocrity. Those who focus on themselves advance. Those who scatter their energy on others burn out. Look, no one's asking you to ignore your family or your responsibilities, but you must understand this. Your greatest gift to the world is becoming your best version. When you are strong, your family becomes stronger. When you are disciplined, your work flourishes. When you are clear in your purpose, you inspire those around you. But when you're tired, frustrated, and lost, what can you give? Nothing. The price of not focusing on yourself is becoming a shadow of what you could have been. Remember this clearly. Energy follows attention. Wherever you place your focus, your life will grow. Focus on comparison, and envy will grow. Focus on distraction, and emptiness will grow. But focus on yourself, on your discipline, your mind, your purpose, and greatness will grow. Right now, begin to redirect your energy. Don't waste it on what you can't control. Move it toward what you can control. Your attitude, your decisions, your time. Because the power of your life lies in your own hands, not in anyone else's. In my seminars, I often ask, how many of you compared yourself to someone else today? Almost every hand goes up. And that's where the real work begins. When you finally realize that the only life you're meant to master is your own. Do you know why? Because comparison has become a toxic habit that consumes millions of people every single day. We live in an age where, with a single click, you can witness someone else's seemingly perfect life, their new car, their beach vacation, their promotion, and immediately you think, I should be there. I should have that. I'm falling behind. But here's the truth that almost no one dares to say. What you see online are results, not the process. You see victories, not the nights of doubt, the unpaid bills, or the silent failures that shaped those victories. No one shares the moments when they break down, when they feel lost, or when they question everything. Yet, you compare yourself to that illusion. Carl Jung taught that the greatest suffering of the modern man is disconnection from his own inner path. I've seen people lose years of their lives trying to reach the image of another, forgetting their own journey, their own symbolic road toward individuation, the process of becoming who they truly are. And the result is always the same: frustration, emptiness, and a painful sense that life is slipping away. Understand this. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Are you a little more conscious today than you were before? Did you make one effort more than you did yesterday? Did you take one step closer to your authentic self? That is progress. That is self-realization. When you compete with others, you drain your energy. When you compete with yourself, you awaken your power. The man or woman who learns to focus inward, who measures progress by inner transformation rather than external validation, becomes unstoppable. Because every day adds up, every day builds strength, and every day expands consciousness. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you're a runner on a track. If you spend your time looking at the other lanes, you lose balance, you stumble, and eventually you fall. But when your eyes remain fixed on your own lane, when your vision is directed toward your goal, you move forward with focus and strength. Life works the same way. Your race is yours, no one else's. Stop looking outward and start looking inward. Every minute you spend comparing yourself to others is a minute you don't invest in your own growth, and that time will never return. Focus on you. Make yourself your own point of reference, and every night before you sleep, ask yourself, did I move one step further than yesterday? If the answer is yes, then you are walking the right path. After decades of observing the human psyche, Carl Jung concluded that success, in its deepest sense, is never an accident. It is the result of inner discipline, the alignment between the conscious and the unconscious self. Discipline begins the moment you decide to place your inner being at the center of your life. Many mistake this for selfishness, but it is not. It is responsibility, a sacred duty to protect the vessel that carries your purpose. If you don't take care of your mind, your body, and your soul, no one else will. I've seen gifted individuals collapse because they neglected their inner world. I've seen families fall apart because someone refused to rest and reconnect with themselves. I've seen dreams fade because people constantly place themselves last. Think of it this way. Before a plane takes off, the instructions are clear. In case of emergency, put on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Why? Because if you don't breathe, you can't save anyone. The same principle applies to life. If you don't have the inner discipline to strengthen yourself, sooner or later, you will not be able to hold anyone else up. The discipline of putting yourself first means creating sacred routines, waking up earlier to work on your mind, dedicating daily time to your physical and emotional health, saying no to what drains you, and yes to what elevates you. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Those who are used to your constant availability may not understand it. But remember what Jung said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. When you finally choose to honor yourself, you stop living by comparison and start living by awareness. And that, my friend, is where true freedom begins. Some will even criticize you, but listen carefully. You are not here to live according to anyone else's expectations. You are here to fulfill your inner purpose. True respect is not earned by sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It is earned when others recognize your clarity, strength, and sense of direction. And that clarity only comes when you learn to put yourself first. Today, I want you to make a firm decision. From this moment on, every action you take should bring you closer to the person you want to become. Ask yourself, does this strengthen me or weaken me? Does this bring me closer to my goal or take me further away? That inner discipline is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And remember, you don't need to change everything in one day. You only need to begin. Discipline is not built through great leaps, but through steady, deliberate steps. We live in the age of distraction. Never before in human history has it been so easy to lose focus. With a simple movement of your finger, you have access to endless entertainment, endless news, and endless notifications stealing your attention every second. But the problem is not technology itself. The real problem is that when you focus on everything, you focus on nothing. Carl Jung observed that the fragmented mind becomes the weakest of all. I've seen people with immense talent, unique abilities, and enormous potential who never accomplish anything great because their attention is shattered. They start a project and abandon it. They build a habit and drop it. They fill their minds with ideas, but never create anything lasting. Distraction is the silent enemy of your greatness, and each time you surrender to it, you are giving away your life in small, invisible doses. Reflect for a moment. How many hours of your day are lost to things that do not move you closer to your purpose? How many times do you open your phone for a minute and end up losing an hour? How many days have you told yourself tomorrow while being busy with trivialities? The truth is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating. If you don't control your focus, someone else will. And let me remind you, every great achievement was born from a focused mind. Edison didn't invent the light bulb while checking for updates. Beethoven didn't compose symphonies while being interrupted every 5 minutes. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations while comparing his life to others. Your success depends on a single skill: learning to silence the noise and open the path back to yourself. Because only when distraction dies, greatness is born. Jung taught that the mind expands in silence. When the inner world becomes still, the self begins to emerge. Throughout my travels and teachings, I discovered that most people don't fail because of lack of talent or opportunity. They fail because they don't know how to say no. Saying yes to everything seems noble, generous, even kind. But every time you say yes to what doesn't matter, you are saying no to your own life. I've seen young people with enormous dreams burn out because they didn't have the courage to reject the distractions of their friends. I've seen brilliant professionals trapped in commitments they never wanted because they feared saying no. I've seen parents exhausted, living for everyone but themselves because they feel guilty for putting themselves first. Remember this forever. Saying no to what doesn't elevate you is saying yes to your purpose. When someone asks for your time for something meaningless and you say no, you are protecting your energy. When someone tries to drag you into empty discussions and you say no, you are saving your peace. When someone attempts to impose their version of life upon you and you say no, you are defending your greatness. Real respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from setting clear boundaries, from showing that you have a mission and that you are not willing to compromise it. The most successful people I've met are not the most agreeable or accommodating. They are the most self-aware. They know what they want. They know what they don't want, and they express it without fear. So here's your challenge. Start practicing the art of saying no with dignity. You don't need long excuses. A simple, firm, no thank you carries more power than 1,000 justifications. And every time you do it, you'll feel something shift inside. You'll feel your focus returning to you. Because in life, focus is not given. It is protected. And the courage to say no is the wall that guards your purpose. Now I want you to do something tonight. When you're alone, look at yourself in the mirror. Not the way you usually do, quickly while getting ready. Look deeply. Observe your eyes, your face, your expression. Ask yourself, am I truly living as the person I wish to become? The mirror never lies. It will show you if you're tired because you've ignored your well-being. It will show you if you're sad because you've denied your dreams. It will show you if you feel empty because you've lived more for others than for yourself. And in that moment, you will face two choices. You can continue covering your reality with excuses like, "I don't have time. It's not the right moment. It's too late." Or you can face the truth with courage and decide to change. Jung would remind you that transformation does not begin in comfort, but in the honest confrontation with one's own reflection. And that reflection, the one that dares to see itself fully, is where the journey toward the self truly begins. Keep your promises to yourself, because trust is not built by what you say to the world, but by what you fulfill within. Every time you say, "Tomorrow I'll start," and don't, the mirror remembers. Every time you promise discipline and fail, the mirror reflects it. But every time you follow through, even with the smallest step, the mirror begins to show pride, dignity, and strength. Understand this. The most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself. If you respect yourself, others will respect you. If you abandon yourself, others will abandon you too. The mirror never lies because it reflects the truth of how you've treated your own soul. So tonight, when you face it, make a small but honest promise to yourself. It could be reading 10 pages, taking a short walk, writing your goals, or meditating for 5 minutes. The size doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep your word, because every fulfilled promise becomes another brick in the foundation of your self-trust. And when trust grows, focus becomes unshakable. Most people crave instant results. They exercise for a week and want a transformed body. They save money for a month and want financial freedom. They take one course and want to be experts. And when they don't see quick results, they quit. But Carl Jung taught that the most powerful transformations are invisible at first. When you start reading daily, it feels like nothing changes. When you begin to save, the amount seems insignificant. When you start meditating, discomfort is all you feel. But what's invisible accumulates. And one day, without realizing it, it becomes visible. I've seen it countless times. People who once felt stuck, after a year of quiet effort, become unrecognizable. Not because something magical happened, but because day after day, they planted in silence. Invisible progress builds empires. While others chase shortcuts, you build foundations, and real foundations never collapse. Think about this. Bamboo spends years growing underground when no one can see it. No applause, no recognition. It seems like nothing's happening, but when it finally breaks the surface, it grows meters in just weeks. Your life works the same way. The work you do in silence, the focus you maintain when no one's watching, will one day explode into results everyone will see. That's why you must never underestimate small steps. Never mock your slow progress, because each step you take toward yourself moves you away from the stagnation of others. Discipline is patience in motion. And if you have the patience to trust the process, one day the entire world will be astonished by your transformation. Understand this with absolute clarity. Your life doesn't change when governments change, when the economy shifts, or when people around you behave differently. Your life changes the day you decide to change. That is the true turning point. It's not in luck, inheritance, or anyone's approval. It lies in your decision. And that decision, my friend, is to focus on yourself. For years, I have seen the same scene repeat itself. A person arrives burdened by failure, head down, convinced it's too late, believing others have gone too far ahead. But after truly deciding to change, they return, months later, completely transformed. And the most surprising thing is that the world around them hasn't changed much. What changed was the way they saw themselves. Because when you change, your entire perception of life changes, and with it, everything else begins to transform. When you change, your decisions change. When you change, the energy with which you walk through the world transforms as well. Let me ask you something. What would happen if, starting today, instead of focusing on what others do, you devoted yourself, with discipline, to your own growth? What would happen if, instead of wasting hours comparing yourself, you invested that time in learning a new skill, training your body, and strengthening your mind? What would happen if every day, even by just 1%, you became stronger, clearer, more disciplined? I'll tell you this, in a year, your life would be unrecognizable, and in 5 years, you might barely recognize yourself. But here's the problem. Most people never make that choice. They wait for the world to change. They wait for the perfect moment, but that moment never comes, because the only perfect moment is this one. Now look at your life as if it were a train. You're standing at a station. If you don't decide to get on the train of your own growth today, tomorrow it will be harder, the day after tomorrow more expensive, and in a year, the train might not even be there. The decision to focus on yourself cannot be postponed. Every day you do it, you gain strength. Every day you don't, you lose it. Carl Jung once said that the greatest tragedy of a human being is to spend life looking outward, never realizing that the treasure lies within. I've seen people who started with nothing and built empires simply because one day they said, "Enough. Today, I focus on myself, on my discipline, on my purpose." I've seen parents who, after years of sacrificing for everyone but themselves, decided to recover their strength, to study, to start a business, and their entire families were transformed. I've seen young people who seemed destined for mediocrity, but with one firm decision, rewrote their entire story. It all began with a spark, with that inner declaration, "Today, I choose to focus on myself." I want you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine two paths before you. On the first, everything stays the same. Distractions, comparisons, broken promises, constantly postponing what you know must be done. Imagine your life 5 years from now if nothing changes. Do you like what you see? Now imagine the second path. Each day, a small step forward. Not perfect, but constant. You read, you train, you work on your mind, you build habits. Imagine your life in 5 years if you start today. Do you feel the difference? The distance between those two paths isn't luck, genetics, or destiny. It's a single choice, to focus on yourself. So I want to invite you to something deeper. Don't leave this as a mere thought. Turn it into a declaration. Write it down right now. Today, I decide to focus on myself. Do it, because when you write it, you affirm it. When you declare it, you strengthen it. And when you share it, you commit to it. And listen carefully. The world will remain noisy. People will keep talking. Distractions will continue trying to steal your focus. Problems will never disappear. But when you are centered within yourself, when you become your own priority, none of that will stop you. Because greatness is never achieved under perfect external conditions. It is born from an unshakable inner focus. And that focus awakens the day you decide that your life will not be an accident, but a conscious project. So let me leave you with this truth. Everything can change starting today. Not tomorrow, Not Monday, not next year. Today. Make yourself your mission. Make yourself your greatest investment. Make yourself your priority, and you'll see how, little by little, your entire world begins to transform. Imagine for a moment that within you lies a sleeping giant, an immense force that you've barely begun to explore. That giant is your true potential, your creativity, your discipline, your resilience. What's fascinating is that many people feel deep inside that they're meant for something greater, that they haven't even come close to what they could become. And yet, most remain asleep beside that giant, trapped in routines and distractions that keep them distant from their own greatness. Carl Jung taught that the difference between those who achieve the extraordinary and those who remain in mediocrity doesn't lie in talent or opportunity. It lies in the willingness to awaken that inner power. He observed that people begin to transform the moment they believe in themselves and act with conscious intent. Greatness, then, is not a gift, it's a decision. When you realize that potential is not a matter of luck, but the result of an inner psychological process, your perception of life changes completely. It isn't magic or chance, it's discipline, clarity, and courage. Each small step you take forward awakens a deeper layer of that sleeping giant, and once it awakens, there's no turning back. Your life can no longer remain the same because you start to live from a higher level of consciousness and purpose. Your past, your failures, or the limitations imposed upon you by others do not define what you are capable of achieving. What truly matters is the decision you make today. Every morning grants you the opportunity to rewrite your destiny, to act from your inner power rather than your fears. And that is where true transformation begins. When you stop asking yourself what you might lose and start asking what you can create, everything shifts. Within you lies the energy needed for an extraordinary life. You don't need permission or ideal conditions. Your potential doesn't wait for validation. It waits for action. Each day you rise with determination, even when circumstances aren't ideal. You send a message to your unconscious: I am ready to grow. Through repetition, greatness becomes your new normal. The awakening of your potential is like lighting a lamp in a dark room. At first, the light seems dim, but as you keep it burning, you begin to see more clearly what was once hidden. You uncover dormant talents, forgotten abilities, and a strength you never imagined you possessed. And the most powerful part is that this light not only illuminates your path, it inspires others to ignite their own. So today, I invite you to see this not as theory, but as a personal call. It doesn't matter if yesterday you were paralyzed by doubt or confined by the opinions of others. From this moment on, you can decide that your life moves forward, that you will no longer live in the shadow of your potential, but will walk toward your own greatness. This is the true turning point, the conscious decision to never settle again. And before moving on, affirm it within yourself and declare it aloud. Today, I begin to awaken my greatness. Write it not as a beautiful phrase, but as a commitment to your own transformation. Let this be your reminder that this day marked the beginning of a new life, a life where you choose never again to live beneath what you are capable of. Your potential is always shaped by the image you hold of yourself. It is an invisible mirror that determines not only what you think of yourself, but also what you allow into your reality. When that inner image is small, your decisions shrink, your actions weaken, and your results remain limited. But when you elevate your self-image, when you see yourself as capable, strong, and worthy, that vision instantly reflects in your actions and achievements. Jung discovered that people don't act according to what they desire, but according to how they perceive themselves. If someone sees themselves as weak, they will act weak, even with every opportunity before them. If someone sees themselves as strong, they will move decisively, even amid uncertainty. That is the power and the danger of self-image. It becomes the invisible boundary that defines how far you're willing to go. Think of it as a thermostat. No matter how much the temperature changes, it always adjusts to return to its preset level. Your self-image works the same way. If you see yourself as average, even when you achieve something remarkable, your mind will unconsciously sabotage you to return to normal. But when you elevate your inner standard, anything below that vision becomes unacceptable, and your psyche naturally works to correct it. Every day, you have the choice to strengthen or weaken your self-image. It is nourished by your thoughts, the words you use to describe yourself, and the actions you consistently repeat. If every morning you tell yourself, "I can't, I'm not good enough, this isn't for me," your mind accepts it as truth and behaves accordingly. But if you begin to repeat, "I am capable, I deserve more, I am building my greatness," that inner dialogue becomes the foundation of new behavior. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is deeply believed. Whatever you affirm with conviction eventually shapes your reality. Over time, any idea planted in your mind grows roots. That is why elevating your self-image is not a random act, but a conscious daily discipline. It is not about waiting for external success to feel worthy. It begins by forming the image of who you wish to become, and then acting as if you already were that person. That internal alignment is what generates external transformation. Imagine an athlete who sees himself as a world champion long before winning any title. That vision provides direction, strength, and resilience. Every sacrifice and setback becomes part of the path toward that identity. Now think of another athlete with the same physical talent, but who sees himself as an amateur with no future. The difference in their results won't lie in their physical strength, but in the power of the image they hold within. Jung believed that the outer world mirrors the inner one, and I experienced this truth myself. For years, I saw myself as limited, trapped in mediocrity, and that belief created the reality I feared. The day I decided to change that internal picture and began to treat myself as someone capable of greatness, my actions changed. I sought new knowledge, surrounded myself with different people, took on greater challenges, and it all started with one simple question: how do I see myself? So now, I invite you to pause and look within with absolute honesty. Ask yourself whether you're treating yourself as someone destined for mediocrity or as someone with an extraordinary future. That question defines everything, because you can never rise above the image you hold of yourself. Once you decide to elevate it, to see yourself as great, your performance and your results will inevitably expand. Self-image is not a detail. It is the origin of every transformation. Picture two identical cars on the same racetrack. Both have the same engine, power, and conditions, yet one has a full tank, while the other has only a few drops of fuel. Which do you think will go farther? That's exactly how your life works. Your talents and resources may be identical to someone else's, But if your inner attitude is empty, you won't travel far. Jung taught that attitude is the key that turns potential into movement. The difference between progress and stagnation is rarely about intelligence or opportunity, but about the mental position from which you face each day. A negative mind is like trying to run with the brakes on. You may have energy and talent, but you move painfully slow. A positive mind, however, acts like an accelerator, amplifying every effort you make. Your attitude becomes the filter that determines whether a challenge stops you or propels you forward. And what's remarkable is that attitude does not depend on outer events, but on the choices made within. Each morning, you have the chance to decide whether to fill your inner tank with thoughts of enthusiasm, confidence, and gratitude, or to drain it with worry, fear, and complaint. That invisible choice shapes visible results. It defines your energy, focus, and even how the world responds to you. I witnessed this in the early years of my own journey. There were mornings when I woke up convinced that life was hard, that I didn't have enough, that nothing would work out, and my results reflected exactly that. But when I began to wake up expecting something good to happen, everything started to shift. Opportunities that I once overlooked became visible, and my productivity soared. It wasn't magic, it was focus. A positive attitude is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, possibilities appear where only shadows existed. The challenges don't vanish, but your perception transforms. What once seemed impossible becomes a path of growth. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said that transformation begins the moment we change the way we see ourselves. That transformation of perspective is what separates those who give up quickly from those who persist until they succeed. Carl Jung taught that attitude is not a mere reaction to life, but a conscious creation of the self. It's not about waiting to feel positive. It's a discipline of the soul, a daily act of inner alignment. You can reprogram your mind by reading something that uplifts you in the morning, writing 3 things you're grateful for, or reminding yourself of your purpose before stepping outside. Each of these gestures feeds your inner reservoir and strengthens the expectation of success. Just as a car needs constant fuel, your mind needs daily emotional nourishment. The contrast is clear. People with negative attitudes may possess all the tools and still remain stuck because they focus on what's missing or what isn't working. Those who cultivate a positive inner state, however, transform even limited resources into opportunities because their energy drives them to act, persist, and create. It's not always the most talented who go the farthest, but the one who sustains the right mental disposition to keep going. Jung would say that success belongs to the one who integrates will and vision. So each morning, ask yourself this question: with what attitude will I fill my inner tank today? That single decision determines how you face challenges, how you use your gifts, and how fast you move toward your goals. Remember, even the most powerful car is useless without fuel, and your most extraordinary life won't function without the right attitude. Fill your tank with empowering thoughts, and you'll see how the path to success unfolds naturally before you. Your fears are like invisible bars standing between you and your greatness. You can't touch them, you can't see them, but their influence is real. They restrict your choices, shrink your confidence, and keep you trapped in safe zones that offer no growth. Each time you allow fear to direct your life, you become its prisoner. The most deceptive part is that you rarely notice it. The fear of failure is the most common bar. It makes you doubt your abilities before you even try. It leads you to postpone decisions and settle for less than you deserve. The irony is that many people never truly fail. They only fail because fear steals their action. Those who dare to take a step forward, even while trembling, soon realize that every attempt weakens fear's hold on them. The fear of rejection works in a similar way, but it attacks your relationship with others. It makes you depend on external approval, conform to others' expectations, and silence your inner voice. When you fear not being accepted, you avoid situations where you could shine, learn, or grow. But every time you speak, act, or propose something despite that anxiety, you break one of the bars that held you captive. Facing fear doesn't mean it disappears instantly. It's a gradual process, a training of the mind and character. Each courageous act, however small, weakens its control. The first time you speak in public, share an idea, or take a calculated risk, you're striking those bars. With every strike, your freedom expands a little more. Jung observed that many people with immense potential remain stagnant because fear paralyzes them, while others, with fewer resources, move forward because they dare to act. The difference lies not in the absence of fear, but in the courage to confront it. We all feel fear. Only some choose to use it as fuel, while others use it as an excuse to stay in their invisible cages. A powerful way to begin is to ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? That question works like a hidden map, revealing paths that once seemed impossible. It forces you to imagine possibilities without limitation. And in doing so, your mind begins to accept that those paths can indeed be walked. What's extraordinary is that this single question ignites a spark of movement. It pushes you forward even while the bars are still there. Repeated action is the most effective antidote to fear. Every time you act despite anxiety, your mind learns that the world doesn't destroy you, that mistakes are teachers, and that rejection is not fatal, that accumulated wisdom, practiced day by day, weakens the invisible cage until one day you can move freely, without fear, defining the boundaries of your life. Remember that fear is always an indicator of your potential for growth. Wherever you feel fear, that's precisely where the most meaningful expansion will occur. Each time you face fear, you expand your comfort zone and discover that you are far stronger, more capable, and freer than you ever imagined. Ask yourself right now, what would you do today if fear didn't exist? That answer may be the first step toward the life you've always desired. Motivation, as Carl Jung explained, is like the wind. Sometimes it blows with force, and other times it disappears without warning. It may inspire you for minutes or even hours, but it can never be trusted as a foundation for a consistent life. If you rely solely on motivation, your results will fluctuate like the weather. One day moving forward with passion, the next standing still. Discipline, however, is not dependent on external forces. It is an inner engine, always ready to move. It's an internal compass, pointing toward your true north, your most meaningful goals, no matter how fierce the storms may become. It doesn't matter if you feel tired, bored, or discouraged. When you act with discipline, you keep advancing. Every action taken out of commitment, rather than emotion, strengthens your character and reinforces your trust in yourself. Discipline is not punishment, it's transformation. It becomes a sacred habit that shapes your identity, turning you into someone who honors their word and purpose. Keeping promises to yourself is the surest way to build self-esteem. Each time you choose action over comfort, you reaffirm the image of a capable and reliable person. This silent coherence creates a domino effect. The more you honor your word, the more confidence you gain in your choices, and the faster you approach your best self. Discipline becomes the multiplier of your potential, the master key that turns dreams into tangible realities. No matter how vast or ambitious your vision may be, if you cultivate the ability to act daily without depending on motivation, no obstacle will be insurmountable. Each step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. Over time, these accumulated steps generate extraordinary results that once seemed impossible. The fascinating thing is that the more you practice discipline, the freer you become. Dependency on emotions or external stimuli fades away. You no longer wait to feel inspired. You act because your mind and character have been trained to follow through on your commitment. That kind of freedom is profound. It means you are the master of your life, that no one and nothing can stop you once you decide to move forward. Discipline also acts as a shield against procrastination. While motivation can be fleeting and deceptive, discipline remains firm, even in difficult days. Every time you overcome the temptation to delay an action, you strengthen your inner resistance and increase your ability to face greater challenges in the future. What seems like a small effort today becomes a lifelong habit of resilience. Discipline, as Jung would say, is not rigidity. It is the bridge between intention and manifestation. You can use it to learn new skills, improve your relationships, build healthy habits, or progress in your career. Every disciplined act is a silent vote in favor of the person you aspire to become. And with each vote, your identity grows and your potential unfolds. Remember always, discipline is a form of freedom. When you act without relying on external motivation, you become the architect of your destiny. Obstacles stop being excuses and become stepping stones for growth. Ask yourself now, what disciplined action can I take today, even if I don't feel like it, that brings me closer to the person I want to become? That single decision may become the turning point that transforms your life forever. We all fall. We all make mistakes. Even the most accomplished and admired individuals face failure and setbacks. The key is not to avoid falling, but to understand how you respond when you hit the ground. Every mistake is a mirror revealing parts of yourself that need awareness. Each fall contains the seed of wisdom that, if nurtured, strengthens and enlightens you. Think of a boxer in the ring. He may be knocked down again and again, feel the weight of the blow and the sting of humiliation. But what defines him is not the number of times he falls. It's how quickly he stands back up. Each time he rises, he reaffirms his determination, strengthens his spirit, and reminds his mind that failure is not the end, but a necessary step toward mastery. When you learn to rise quickly, the emotional impact of the fall diminishes. Guilt, self-pity, and paralysis begin to lose their grip. Acting immediately after a setback transforms a negative event into a source of momentum, turning obstacles into opportunities for expansion and awareness. Resilience is never born in comfort. It's forged in difficulty. Every time you choose to get up, you train your mind and character to face the unexpected with clarity and composure. You become capable of maintaining mental stability even when life feels overwhelming. The habit of rising fast separates those who achieve extraordinary results from those trapped in frustration. Each fall is also a lesson in humility. It reminds you that perfection is a myth, but reinforces your power over your response. Learning to stand quickly means assuming full responsibility for your life, without blaming others or waiting for ideal conditions. That ability to respond immediately multiplies your inner strength and expands your potential for success. The constant practice of standing up swiftly makes you almost immune to the paralysis of fear. The more you act after stumbling, the more faith you develop in your ability to handle anything. The fear of falling loses its power because you know that you will always rise again. That progress does not depend on perfection, but on persistence. Rise even before you feel ready. Immediate action creates momentum that reflection alone cannot produce. Every movement after a fall generates an invisible force that propels you forward, accelerating your growth and shaping you into the person you were always meant to become. That habit transforms every adverse experience into a stepping stone toward your highest self, revealing that your true power lies not in perfection, but in how consistently you rise after every fall. Carl Jung taught that what truly defines an individual is not the absence of failure, but the courage to confront the unconscious forces within and stand up again. Consciously, ask yourself, what action can I take now, in this very moment, to rise from my setbacks and continue moving toward my purpose? That single decision to act immediately can mark the boundary between stagnation and the unfolding of your potential. What you expect determines what you attract. Every thought and expectation acts as an invisible magnet, pulling people, events, and circumstances into your reality. When your mind focuses on positive outcomes, you begin to perceive possibilities that once seemed invisible. It is a simple but profound principle. The level of your expectations defines the size of your world. Imagine your life as a garden. If you plant seeds of doubt and fear, only thorns will grow. But if you nurture faith, trust, and optimistic expectations, the flowers that bloom will be opportunities, creativity, and success. Everything begins with what you decide to expect from each day, each relationship, and every goal you pursue. Your expectations work as filters that shape how your mind interprets reality. If you expect the worst, your attention clings to problems and limitations. But when you expect the best, your awareness expands toward possibilities, guidance, and allies that lead you closer to your vision. It is a shift in perception that radically transforms your daily experience. Think of it like tuning a radio frequency. When you align with the right signal, the music flows clearly. If you choose the wrong one, all you hear is static. Your expectations work the same way. When they are tuned to success, abundance, and growth, you start to perceive the subtle signs the psyche sends you to guide your evolution. Every expectation generates energy within you. Expecting the best fills you with motivation and creative impulse. That energy translates into concrete action, wiser choices, and relationships that expand your life. Those who expect and believe in extraordinary results act with greater determination and achieve transformations that those imprisoned by fear could never imagine. But this is not about naive optimism or magical thinking. To expect the best is not to deny reality, but to consciously direct your inner energy towards solutions instead of problems. Positive expectation, as Jung would say, is not a fantasy. It is a psychological compass that aligns the conscious and the unconscious toward a unified goal. What you expect creates a feedback loop. Your beliefs shape your actions, Your actions shape your results, and your results reinforce your beliefs. If you continually expect success, your experiences confirm that belief and strengthen your confidence. But if you expect failure, every setback becomes proof of your inner fears. This is why mastering expectation is essential to awaken your true potential. Now ask yourself, what are you truly expecting from your life? Are your thoughts, choices, and actions aligned with expansion and fulfillment? Or are you unconsciously limiting yourself with fear and self-doubt? What you choose to expect today will define what your mind begins to create tomorrow. When you adjust your expectations, you start seeing paths that were always there, but hidden from your awareness. You discover opportunities that were waiting for your perception to evolve. Real growth never depends on external circumstances. It begins with internal decisions. The image you hold of yourself, the attitude you sustain, the discipline you embody, and how quickly you rise after every fall are the foundations of an extraordinary existence. Everything begins and ends in your mind. Remember, greatness is not a destination. It is a process of conscious becoming. Every day, you choose to act despite fear, to favor discipline over comfort, and to sustain positive expectations over doubt. You unlock another layer of your inner strength. No matter where you are today, what truly matters is the direction you choose to move in. Within you lies an infinite potential waiting to be awakened, and every conscious step you take toward it becomes a victory that no one can take away. So my final message is this: stop waiting for permission to grow. You are the only one who can release the force already within you. Now I want to hear from you. What inner habit do you believe you need to cultivate most to awaken your potential? Discipline, attitude, or resilience? Write your answer in the comments and remember to affirm, "Today, I begin to awaken my greatness," so that your commitment is sealed within your consciousness. Because true greatness is not about surpassing others. It is about transcending yourself every single day. This has been a journey into the realm of personal transformation. Until next time.